So again, over 3,000 lakes in northern Wisconsin and over 125 rivers and streams. We have a lot of water in the Northwoods. So we are going to learn, what does it mean to be a full rec lake? So today we're sitting with Alicia Del Ponte, one of our lead buyers agents and buyer specialists up here in the Northwoods, and she's going to tell us. She did a deep dive into what does it mean to be on a full rec lake and what has changed in that market since COVID. Alicia, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you learned on your deep dive into rec lakes? What does that even mean, honestly?
What does that even mean? And we get that question all the time. So when you're saying you want waterfront in the Northwoods, one of my first questions is, what do you want to do on it?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to ski? Do you want to tube? Do you want to fish? What do you want to do? And in our area and in the state of Wisconsin, per the DNR, 50 acres or more is considered a full recreational lake. And what that means is there are areas in that lake that you do not have to go slow no wake and abide by the 100-foot rule from the shoreline. So when I typically start my clients out with that full rec lake search, I usually do about 100 acres and say, depending on how it's shaped, you might be going in a putt-putt circle, but you still have opportunity for a solid, decent one direction ski run. So that is what I think when I hear full rec lake. 100 to 150 acres or more.
Well, and I think sometimes, like, a lot of people, like if it's the older mom and dad that are buying the house, but when their kids come up, maybe the 2 times of the summer that they want to do that, I think that going in a circle is okay for like 2 weekends out of the year.
Yep.
But if they're going to be out jet skiing or they're going to be out water skiing every single weekend, might not be the best scenario for them, but for the one or two times a year that the grandkids or the great grandkids come up, it might be the perfect setting for them.
Well, and the biggest question with that is, what kind of larger lake are you looking for? And I know you have, one of our other agents is doing a deep dive on chain lakes.
Yep.
I did those that are off chain. So we've got tons of acres of water, 200 to thousands that are full rec and off chain. So
Yep, and some of them, just like the chains, have restaurants and bars on them, as well as being on a chain. They just are a stand-alone lake.
Yep.
Yeah. So what did you learn a little bit about the price points, and tell everybody a little bit about what that would look like as far as a price point?
So deep dig on that, there are a lot of properties on water up here. So I know there's a lot of data and a lot of things out there. Keep in mind, we look a lot at averages, and really one of the biggest things, I know we're only halfway through 2023, but one of the biggest things is we've seen about a 36% increase in prices on average from 2020, that COVID beginning, to May of 2023. So that's a 36% increase in what those homes look like. We've seen a decent increase on the vacant lots as well. We've seen a 35% increase on those.
So let's tell people what that means in actual numbers. So in 2020, you could buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on about a 650-acre lake with 240 feet of shoreline for how much money, Alicia?
So we were at about $423,000.
And now today in 2023, that same 3-bedroom, 2-bath on a 700-acre lake is about how much?
$641,000. So quite a big jump in price.
So again, to get on a full rec lake, right now the averages have jumped. That's pretty significant. So tell them a little bit about what that vacant lot looks like. What is the size lake average, so that they can get a picture of what that looks like from a price point perspective as well.
Yep. So the thing about vacant lots on these full rec lakes are they're not making more of them, and you can't subdivide to smaller lots. So the average lot, in 2020 was about $150,000, and that was about just over a 4.5 acre lot, and you had 345 feet of shoreline on a 500 plus acre lake. Couldn't get any better than that. You've got privacy, you've got great build site, you've got a little bit of everything. Today, that lot is now $227,000, and it's a 6-acre lot, so you're getting a little bit more space, but you're sacrificing some shoreline, and you're also sacrificing some size of that lake. Not by much, but just by a little, probably due to availability and just what's out there and folks wanting to be on those bigger bodies of water.
I think it's really interesting to me that I'm still seeing such a large amount of frontage and a large amount of acreage. I think that's exciting to me because again, I think that's what people come up here for. I know when I'm working with a potential seller and they're talking about dividing a lot to make a little bit more money on resale, I usually do what I can to try to get them to keep it the shoreline as wide as possible, just because I think that's kind of what the Northwoods is known for, is the fact that you have a little bit of room to move, you have a little bit of privacy, so that when you're sitting on your shoreline, you're feeling like you're on top of your neighbor. I think that's one of the special things about up here.
Well, and I think that's one of the special things about this type of lake and why people move to, you know, up north. You think chain, largest chain of lakes in the world. We've got a lot going on, you know, all these chain properties that are really developed, but we've got so many large lakes. Maybe it's partially state owned, so there's a lot of privacy there, or they're just bigger parcels. So you get a little bit more, I guess, privacy and room to spread out in some of these off-chain full recreational lakes without sacrificing the fishing. You still have those large lake ecosystems. You're still getting muskie in a 500-acre lake. You don't have to go to the chain
and
for
the
it.
walleye, right?
So yeah, I mean, it's just it's a unique trade where if you're not familiar with the different styles, you know, what takes you from the Eagle River chain to a Big and Little Saint Germain or Lost Lake in Saint Germain, or even, you know, North and South Twin. Some of those larger, maybe more premier, maybe a little bit higher price point, but then we've got so many others that are just a hop, skip, and a jump down the road that nobody's heard of because you haven't looked and explored, and that's where we come in.
Yep, that's when you guys come in to make sure people have their eyes wide open to see all the different things that are possibilities that are open to them. So let's talk a little bit about inventory. So how is inventory on this size lake home as well as the vacant lots?
Yep. So here's 2023, right?
Yep.
We didn't know what was going to happen. A little quiet down in the winter, right? And now we're in the thick of our spring and summer selling season, essentially. Total for all of Vilas and Oneida County on full rec non-chain lakes, we have 33 active listings.
That's pretty huge.
That is huge. So of those, here's the kicker. That average price point is $837,000 right now.
So significantly up compared to what so far the average selling price has been year to date. And interestingly enough, the average list to sell ratio so far this year in this particular segment is about 94%. So what does that tell us? It gives buyers potentially a little bit of
wiggle room.
Yeah. So if you're looking for, again, something where you can maybe do a little bit of negotiation, get some of your inspection rights, feel like you're getting something in your negotiations, right now, year to date, 94% does leave that open. Now last year and the year before, it was darn near 100%.
Yep.
But the way it started out this year, it's been a little bit more negotiable. How about those vacant lots?
Well, and the crazy thing about the vacant lots is we never see as large of a list to sell ratio because there's a little bit more negotiation on them. They usually sit on market a little bit longer because there's development. As a purchaser, you've got all these other expenses to develop and upgrade that property. So right now we have about 42 active listings, and that average price, it's gone up a little bit, but it's sitting at about $282,000. But again, you know, you're still getting a little bit more shoreline, you're getting a little bit larger lake, maybe not as much acreage on some of those lots, but you have a lot of opportunity, and I think a little bit more buildability with some of those lots versus some of those smaller constricted, maybe some wetland lots. So I looked at a lot of those and I kind of dug in when I was looking at those numbers because it was very interesting to me that yes, we have 42 active listings. Let's find some vacant land and build a house. Maybe it's a couple years down the road, but maybe you can still utilize that as a lake lot right now.
Yeah, put your pier in, bring your boat up, build a garage, and then you can use it as sort of your recreation destination while the rest of the world is sort of figuring itself out right now. Interesting. Anything else in here that you thought was super interesting about this particular market segment? And I can tell, I mean, especially because I know you love to fish, but like there is some really great fisheries when you get on these types of lakes as well. For recreation, snowmobile trails go through them. You know, a lot of people will do their cross-country ski routes in the winter around their lake. So a lot of outdoor recreation as well.
Well, and I think that's what's important. You know, you get I guess looking at these and looking at like Kirsten and Becky's, some of those different bodies of water, you really put it into perspective of what those have and what those other lakes have. And you know, some of my favorite lakes are out in the Nicolet, and they're 300-400 acre lakes. Great fishing, great recreational opportunities, and surprisingly, those are still holding value in this market. But that's because I think there's been a shift to let's explore a little bit further out of town. Let's get a little bit quieter. Let's get a little bit more bang for our buck on some of those still large and great lakes, which I love fishing, but I'm also a skier. So as much as some people don't like the late night runs, I love a good sunset run. And if I can do that when the lake is crystal clear and not still flooded with people going to the local bar, that makes me happy, girl.
Awesome. So if you have any questions about 150 plus acre rec lake, Alicia would be your gal to talk to, because she knows the numbers and has just done all the research to prove it. So if we can help you, let us know. And again, thanks, Alicia. Anything else for anybody you want to share?
I don't think so. Just explore the opportunities. There's a lot of water up here, and I've got a lot of lakes that I can talk to you about.
Awesome. Thanks.